I hereby give you permission to fail. How's it going, reinventors? I'm Amelia, and we are in the middle of the 2 in 2022 challenge. Today's video is a little bit different because it's about failure, and it's the one subject nobody really wants to talk about or hear about, but I want to give you permission to fail. It's really important if you want to succeed. We think we need to be perfect, especially in reinventing ourselves. So when we fail, when we aren't able to reinvent ourselves, as something happens and everything seems to fall apart, we tend to give up. We say, well, I'm not meant to reinvent myself, or this type of reinventing isn't for me, or we make some excuse of why we shouldn't continue, and we never try again. We never learn from our mistakes, and then we definitely are not going to succeed. This is especially true for some of us who were reinventing, and then 2020 happened, and then that got followed by 2021, and we're just feeling like, why even try now? But I'm just telling you, you need to give yourself permission to fail and to learn from your mistakes and to try again. And so this video is especially for you. And if you just have started reinventing yourself, you say, oh, I haven't failed yet, why should I watch this video? Let me tell you, something's going to happen, and you're going to either feel like a failure or you're going to actually fail. And then what are you going to do? This video is going to help you out. If you're among the group that have tried to reinvent themselves and failed, give me a thumbs up. I want to know that you're watching this video. If you are already have said you're in the 2 in 2022 challenge, let me know in the comments below that you're here, or give me a thumbs up, either one. That would be awesome. Now, I have failed in my life. I have failed at reinventing myself. I have failed in other things. And so I want to tell you a few examples. One of my first examples of failure happened in high school. In high school, I was in an accelerated program and all my classes. And when I was a sophomore, I took 2 maths at one time. It was awful. I'm just saying, don't ever do it. I took algebra 2 and geometry at the same time. It was just a terrible time. I basically barely survived out of those classes. So the next year I was in pre-calculus, and it was an advanced class. And within the first, 3 or 4 weeks, we had an exam, and I absolutely failed at it. That had never happened to me. I mean, I was an all-A student, but between what happened the year before and that experience, I decided to drop the class. I dropped pre-calculus. I could have just gone through. I had enough math. I could have taken another class. I didn't have to have pre-calculus, but I ended up my senior year taking a pre-calculus course that was just simply I can't remember what the levels were, but it was like the college prep class. It was like the level below the accelerated class. I took that class and I made an A. It was great. I had no problems. But I learned some things from that experience. First of all, depending on who your teacher is, will make the difference between success and failure. My teacher for the accelerated class, her motto was right way, wrong way, my way. And she was just one of those mean teachers, you know what I'm talking about, and wouldn't listen to anybody else's way but hers, and just was not a good learning experience, especially after the year that I'd come through. I needed somebody to really build me up. The next teacher that I had was more complimentary, was more of you can do it kind of style of teaching, rather than you're terrible and you have to do it my way kind of thing. And so that's my experience with that. In fact, when I went to college, I ended up taking pre-calculus and calculus, and actually enjoyed those classes, believe it or not. Now, I'm not a math major. I don't, love math, but that was my experience. And I could have just given up on math altogether and never taken any classes, but I learned from the experience. I learned what kind of teacher that I really needed in order to succeed. What you and I have to do, especially in reinventing, is to say, okay, I failed at this. What did I do right? What did I do wrong? What can I do differently? Maybe not scrap the whole thing, but say, okay, what are these little elements that need to change? And it's also important to find a mentor or a coach and somebody who can walk you through it and help you. It's like, okay, I think maybe I'm going to point out here, maybe this was where you went wrong, or maybe you should try this. And so you need those people, people that are going to, cheer you on and point the right directions, or, kind of help you figure out what went wrong, or think about things differently so that you can solve the problem in another way. If you want to succeed, you've got to fail, but you've also got to try again. Another example that I have actually came recently, and as soon as last night. My husband and I love to play a game called Ticket to Ride, and I've talked about this before. There's several versions of the game, and we had bought a new version. On one side of the board was a version of Japan, and the other side was Italy. Now, my husband and I had played the Italy game about 6 times, and I had lost every single game. And I don't mean like by a couple of points, I mean like just crushed. And my husband is an extremely competitive person, so I have won these Ticket to Ride games, but I have to really step up. And I just could not get this one. This was the one game. I couldn't figure it out. Every game in the Ticket to Ride, genre is a little bit different. Each game, so kind of got some similarities, but there's some differences. And I just couldn't get this one. So last night we sat down and my husband coached me through a game. We laid out our cards, we looked at the cards. Now he had really good cards. I mean, so some of the game is a bit of luck, but he coached me so that I lost, but it wasn't like debilitating. And so the next time we played it, he was not coaching me through it, and I won the game. Let me tell you, I had to fail at it, and I was ready to I'm seriously, the 6th time I lost that game, I was ready to give up. I'm not playing Italy again. I'll play all the other Tickets to Ride. I'm never doing that. And my husband said, I don't want to play with you. You're terrible at this game, and you're mean and angry and everything, and I don't want to do that again. But I said, I'm going to try again. So this secret in dealing with failure is to admit you failed, to figure out where you went wrong, is to find a way to move through that and beyond that challenge, to try again. That is the most important lesson you can learn in terms of failure. And if you're reinventing yourself and you failed, you need to try again. My biggest failure in reinventing myself has to do with being a YouTuber, a YouTube creator. And it has nothing to do with the actual videoing or editing or uploading or thumbnails or any of those things. It has to do with an email list. I have been told again and again by all kinds of other expert YouTube creators that email lists are very important. For one thing, it's a way that I can communicate with other reinventors. I can be there for their support. And creating an email list has just been one of those things that has escaped me. I just can't seem to figure it out. I had a program where I asked people for their email addresses and they signed up for it. I think I had a free PDF people got, and I got like 8 email addresses, 2 of which, one was me and one was a good friend of mine. I already had her email address. So what I'm saying is, I have basically given up on that. So forget the email addresses. But then I realized how important that is. In these days, with other forms of social media that you can't really rely on, I need a way to communicate to other reinventors, to let them know things that are coming up. To things like this challenge would have been great if I could have sent out a massive email list and say, hey, I'm doing a 2 in 2022 challenge. So what I'm working on right now is setting up a new email list and asking people for emails. And now when I ask for your email, I'm going to give you something in return. But the time is coming that I will be asking for your email, so be ready for that. And it's not for me to spam you. I'm not here to spam or send you ads or any of that, but I want a way to communicate with you that you can hear about upcoming videos and other opportunities for your reinventing journey. Now, I learned about an article just the other day, and I've got I'll lead into that in just a minute, but it was on today.com, and it was an article about a study that had been done about the best way to learn, and they called it the 85% rule. And so I just wanted to read this. It says, when it comes to learning, making a healthy number of mistakes is a more effective way of absorbing new skills than trying to be flawless. Researchers reported this in a Nature Communications article, and that's the 85% rule. You must get things right 85% of the time. That's an accuracy rate that is the sweet spot for learning. So that means you have a 15% error rate, and that gives you room to improve. If everything is easy, you will never learn. If everything is simple, you are never going to appreciate where you've gotten. You have got to have something that has a little bit of a challenge, and that's the 85% rule. The article basically says you've got to make something challenging. It can't be easy. If it is easy, if reinventing yourself is easy, something is wrong, okay? And all of this idea about failure, and I was gonna, that was part of my plan of doing a video on failure, but it really came to a head this week when I got an email from Mel Robbins, and I've mentioned her. She's the author of the 5-Second Rule, and she sent out an email, and I think the first email she sent out I kind of ignored. So the second email I paid attention to, and the second email was like, I am so sorry, I messed up on this other email. The first email that she had sent, speaking of emails, had, dear, insert your name here. I know you've probably gotten those emails too, and they're mass emails. When you send out a mass email, I do understand this part, when you send out a mass email, you can have a list of people's names, and it will put the person's name and their email address together. So when you get it, it normally has your name. You always think, oh, they sent me a personal email. Well, it's really a program. But if you forget, if you don't do something, there's something you have to do to make sure that happens, then people get that dear insert your name here email. And that's not a fun thing to get. It doesn't feel personal. It reminds you that it's a program. And the sender also feels awful. And Mel Robbins just felt like a screw up. And so that's why she sent out this email. But then she got all these responses, like thousands of people saying, hey, I make mistakes too. Hey, this has happened to me. Knowing that you screwed up made my week better because everything was going wrong. And so I realized, oh, wow, it is so important to realize we do make mistakes, but to learn from the mistakes. And I bet Mel Robbins and her team are going to be proofreading every email that goes out from now on. And that seems like a silly example, that it's so important. If you are reinventing yourself and you have made a mistake, then you have got to learn from that and move on. If you've made a mistake in reinventing yourself, in the comments below, I want you to let me know what it is. And if there's a lesson there, let me know what that is either, or if maybe you just have a question. This is where I failed. Amelia, what do you think the lesson is that I should learn here? I want to hear from you. I also want to help you through your failure. So what can you do? Now, what happened in reinventing yourself in this last year? Was it COVID? I mean, sometimes there are things that are beyond your scope or control that are going to happen, and you just have to deal with that. What are ways to work around it? If the failure was something else, something either you did or didn't do, like me in my email list, I really didn't follow through on that. How can you help that? I mean, I've got to find some tutorials online that let me know how to do that correctly, and I've got to find a better program. I can't remember what I was using, but I did not like it. It was not user-friendly, and I may have to pay some more money for it, but I think that's so important in order for me to succeed on this channel. So if you have failed in reinventing yourself, I want you to write down right now what you failed at. List your failures in reinventing yourself. I want you to then say, what led to these mistakes? What are the things that went wrong? Maybe something was out of your control. Maybe something was out of your control, but you could work around it. Maybe there was something you did wrong or failed to do or didn't follow through on something. Or, I talked about, I think it was last week, that, you have to have some support. Maybe you didn't have that support. So how can you get that? Figure out what the mistake was, what the failure was, what you can learn for it, how you can meet that challenge, how you can recover from that failure, what you can do next. Now, I have to say right here that it is going to be very, very tempting to be self-critical. You're going to want to pull yourself down. Now, my next video is going to be about the opposite, but I want to tell you right now that this is not the time to say you are a failure, okay? I want to say because you fail does not make you a failure. It just means you got some lessons you need to learn and you need to try again. So one of the things that I want you to do is not to self-criticize yourself. Yes, you're trying to figure out what went wrong and trying to figure out ways to correct that, but that doesn't mean you're a bad person. That doesn't mean you are a failure. It does not mean that you can never reinvent yourself. So I want you to hear that. And the example that I have is when you were a toddler, you learned things by failing, okay? You learned how to walk by falling down. You learned how to talk by mispronouncing things or saying things wrong or speaking with a lisp, and people would correct you. Later on, when you got a little bit older, they would correct your grammar so that you speak properly. Hopefully you speak properly. When you learn how to eat, you were failing. You had, think of you were in the high chair and you were messy. You don't do that. When you were potty trained, how many times did maybe you wet your pants or have an accident or something? But let me tell you, today, hopefully, you're walking, talking, eating, and going to the bathroom properly. But you did not learn those skills without failing. But you got up and you tried again. And that's what I'm telling you. If you fail once, failed twice, even failed 3 times, now is the time to get up and try again. You're going to learn from your mistakes. You're going to reinvent yourself. And I want you to get up and try again, to reinvent yourself so that you can live a life of joy, fulfillment, and purpose. I'm Amelia. This is Reinventing You. I can't wait to see you in the next video when I'm going to talk about building yourself up. Have a great one.